All right, everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we've got some major news last night. The Pirate Era Battle, the first Pirate Era Battle, has been delayed. And the response from Capital Games is less than enticing. There's a lot of discontent within the community. There's a big frustration from players of the way this was communicated, the timing of it, and even just like some of the communication leading up to this. It really does feel like the carpet was just kind of ripped from underneath our feet a little bit on it. I think Agnar's put it really well, where for a while here, it's like CG was building up our, trust in them. Like their trust was building, and then they come and do this, and it just knocks all that good work down. And much of that could have been saved had this change been communicated earlier. The timing of this to me feels very, very predatory. Feels very, very coincidental in their favor. So we're going to kind of talk about this, how I think it impacts players, what I think it could mean for the future as well. Because let's be very clear about something. This game runs on timelines, right? The timelines in this game are set in stone. Like, Conquest is happening when, GAC is happening when, TW, TB. You could plot those out for the next 6 years. Because they don't change, right? They're set in stone. And the fact that this era battle is changing is a big deal, because that means that other things could start changing just because they want them to. And that is something that we haven't had to deal with before. So, before we go any further, let's thank our channel members for their continued support. If you guys are ever interested, that link is down below, along with a link to our Discord server. Go check it out. Really just appreciate all of these guys and gals keeping the faith, believing in me to create good content for them, whether you are, a Jedi Master or granted the rank of Wampa, or you just have a seat on the council. It is very appreciated, and you guys are, much a part of the Fat family, and I cannot thank you enough for all that you do. So let's get in here, guys, and let's talk about this Era Battle update. All right, so where we're going to go to here is the screen capture. And this is the update that we got last night. So let me just hide the Disney Spoil My Girls fund. So here is some information on the upcoming Era Battle and Smuggler's Run 3. So right there, Smuggler's Run 3. There's our first announcement that we're getting something new. Smuggler's Run 3. Okay, wow. Era Battle. Hondo on deck. This August, gather your new pirate forces and set sail for the next Era Battle, Raiders of the Outer Rim. Galactic Legend Hondo, with his legendary love for a good score, in addition to the normal final tier, is bringing a bonus tier requiring Hondo himself, ensuring you'll haul in even more booty with him at your side. So before we talk about Smuggler's Run 3 and how much it's like a big middle finger to Ahsoka, let's just break this down. This section right here, I'm fine with. The Era Battle is not going to require Hondo per normal. But if you do get Hondo, you're going to be able to get extra rewards in this Era Battle. I'm fine with that. I think that's fair. That's much better than what they did with the Mace Windu Jedi Vanguard Era Battle, where, hey, the normal battle will work with Depa and Temple Guard, and then there's bonus rewards for having Mace Windu. It's like, no, you need Mace Windu. So I'm okay with that change. I like this. I think that's very, very good. I'm okay with that. But this is the problem. This August, this communication, I have to say, I'm very disappointed, because this is delayed. Like you literally delayed this. If you go back to the first place, which is right here, this is the, after the initial cadence above, right? Here's the, it says subject to change, but they didn't change it. And if you even go back to the Era of Piracy announcement 2 weeks ago, they say, talk about the Era Battles, the cadence seen with previous Era Battles is also planned cadence for this event, meaning that this calendar should still have been active, that we should have had the 2 Era Battles for this Pirate Era this week, and we've not gotten that. That to me is wrong, right? The fact that it was not mentioned that this is a delay kind of pisses me off a little bit. Like we wouldn't notice. Just come out and own it. I always tell you guys, I'm the kind of person that I just want you to be honest with me. I'm a big believer in honesty. Just tell me the way that it is. One of my father's and I's, patented phrases for each other It is what it is. Just tell me, hey guys, it is what it is. This is a change. The fact that you're kind of not mentioning that that your silence speaks louder than, admitting it, right? That that this is going to piss us off. I'm a big disbeliever in that. And especially because 2 weeks ago, it was still planned cadence for this event. And again, you say, oh, well, subject to change and planned. Okay. That's also then scary because that means that if you guys put subject to change on everything, which they do, their language is always like this, then we can't take anything. We can't take their word for anything then, because we're just going to change it when we feel like it. We're going to change it when it suits us, because this very much suits them. This is a change. Do not get it mistaken. This is not a change that's supposed to be friendly to the player base, right? I do not think that at all. I think every change they make is driven by money, but I don't think it was about a quick hit on Tano. I think it has to do with a wider implication that we will be discussing a little bit later in the video. Now, Smuggler's Run 3. Yo ho, a pirate's life for me. A smuggler's run of 3, similar to Jabba's run of 2. Hondo giving more for your pirates to do. Sailing to your PC client and phones later this year. Hondo at Relic 3 and 9 required. The economy event you desired. Yo ho, a pirate's life for me. Meathead original. Give him credit. That's a banger. I'm sure I butchered it. So, what this is giving us, the information here. Hondo at Relic 3 and 9 required. Now, I'm assuming that's GL Hondo. I don't think this is OG Hondo. This is the new Galactic Legend Hondo getting a Smuggler's Run 3. I gotta say, this is a massive middle finger to Ahsoka. We've talked about it a lot. I know many other content creators, we all agree. Ahsoka is the last Galactic Legend that you should be working on now at this point. She is the last GL to work on outside of her performance. Which, if you're like me and you're in the end game, right? I have a Relic 8. I have no issues with this. She performs well enough. Obviously, she needs Ezra and the Spectre team and stuff. But if you're end game, you built this because there's nothing else to do. But if you're a mid-game player, there's no reason to get Ahsoka. There's nothing. She gives you nothing. There's no raid. There's no economy event. Nothing. She's just... And I feel like this Hondo getting a Smuggler's Run 3 is the biggest middle finger to Ahsoka. I think this is a true admittance that everything they had for Ahsoka is getting scrapped and pushed to Hondo. That's the vibe that I'm getting, is everything that was meant to happen for Ahsoka is happening with Hondo. And to me, this is a bad sign for Ahsoka, and I would not, calling it now, I will not be shocked if we get some early light speed bundles for her. I would not be shocked if we get early light speed bundles, because I see very few players who are going to feel the need to want to spend their resources on that when it's not going to give you anything. You could go build the Imperial Remnants, but you don't need, they don't go with Ahsoka. So you go build these guys, you get your assault battle, and you get to use them with other teams. You don't need the Ahsoka characters for any of that. So, yeah, it just, big middle finger to her. I did want to point that out. But, and this makes Pirates even more worth it. They're in the raid. There's a Smuggler's Run 3. This makes Hondo very, very desirable. Which, for the player base, you got to say overall, this is good. Because, again, they're using the term Smuggler's Run 3, which means it should be a permanent event. Now, again, that's subject to change, right? Do we take their word for it that that's a permanent event? I would think so, because Smuggler's Run 1, Smuggler's Run 2, those are permanent events. The Endor Escalation with Leia, permanent event. I would assume this is permanent, but I've got to say assume now. I can't say it's permanent, because what the hell do we know? You've gone back on your word at this point. You've changed things that in your wording that just don't make sense, and to me, that's not right. Before we move into, so I did want to mention all of that. Not a big fan of this. I do not like it. And you guys will see why I think this is a big deal, why I think this happened, we will talk about. One last thing here about just what, moving forward with this kind of stuff. We're going to have to be very careful, as a free-to-play now. If you are free-to-play or you're a light spender, you're going to have to be very careful with your resources. I think if you are a dolphin and you're a whale, you're probably not too affected by this change, right? But it's going to widen the gap between those who spend and those who don't. And that's where I'm really concerned with this is, that gap is already getting larger and larger, and how much bigger do they want it to get to, right? So let's kind of talk about why I think this is happening and, like, what the hell, right? So I'm sort of torn with this because there's a big part of me that wants to be up in arms, and I hope you all appreciate the dad joke of me putting in characters that have more than 2 arms. There's a part of me that's very up in arms about this because it's ridiculous. The communication is bad. You could have told us this before the Tano event. You could have, that could have all been in the game. There's no way that decision was made within, like, and this goes to my whole thing with the way that they communicate. You do not just have to communicate with us like once a week. Why couldn't you have said, hey guys, the Tano event is ongoing. The assault battle for him is getting delayed. Because that assault battle delay, right, just so we're very clear about this, that assault battle delay going to August, that means that both Quiggled and Kix will be in the game. And one of the big reasons that that's impactful is because a lot of us, Egnards, myself, many others, we tell you, get that character to 58 to 65, and then you get to the era battle where that first tier rewards you shards of one of the conquest units, right? One of the marquee units, right? Gets you 7 shards. So now you'll have a 5-star Etano that then you can get to the next tier where you can earn more shards for those characters. Now, if you get, Etano to that point and you get Quiggled shards, you're screwed, right? You're going to have to go buy more Captain Etano shards. If you get Kix or whatever, like, you're going to have to be really careful that you might have to have all the characters at that point. You might have to have all of them at that 58 to 65 to ensure you can get to that tier. And that's assuming, right? That's assuming that you only need one of them to get through the era battle, because they're changing everything. So for all we know, now you have to have all 3 units to earn the extra bonus shards, which that's even worse, right? So that's a big deal. And that's why I'm really up in arms about this, is I think that it's from a free-to-play perspective or mid-game spender perspective, it kind of pisses you off because this event that was really good and was really generating a lot of love from the community is getting completely changed. There is a large part of me that is, I should say a smaller part, right? A smaller part. That's the large part of here. There's a smaller part, hence being Yoda, that is trying to be patient and trying to say, like, okay, let's wait and see what is actually happening. Let's wait and see, like, why. Because if we are honest with ourselves, there was a big part of the player base that was very pissed off, myself included, that these era battles were released before they were even beatable, before they were playable. So there is a side of me that's like, well, maybe we are to blame for that we were like, hey, you can't beat this, you can't do this because not all the characters are in the game. But at the same time, that does change how accessible it is to people who aren't willing to spend. If you spend money, the only thing you're getting here is a delayed gratification, which Egnards pointed out in his video. I'm going to link his down below because I did watch that and I really liked a lot of the points he made. So, again, very similar to him, there's vast majority of me is kind of pissed off and I'm with the community. There is a small part of me that I do have to say I can see what CG potentially is thinking, where one of our big complaints is that it's not playable, and that's a problem, right? Now, I think what we need to recognize with these era battles is how they've changed. So with the Clone Trooper era battle, you had the 4 characters, and it was beatable with just Oppo and CX2, right? I beat it with just Oppo, CX2, which meant I didn't need Disguised Clone Trooper, and I didn't need Scorch. Then we got the Jedi Vanguard era battle, which going into it, you're like, okay, well, I'm only going to need Depa and Temple Guard. If I really invest heavily in them, I'll be able to get the same amount of rewards as I did for the Clone Trooper one with less investment. But then you come to find out that you needed Mace Windu, the Journey Guide character, to get that final tier. So it became really only accessible to the people who wailed not only on these Jedi characters, but on the clones as well, or, wailed, spent their resources, got lucky, whatever the case is, right? It changed who could, get into that, which changes the access of that era battle. They went, in my opinion, that definitely changed them from a lot more player friendly to smaller subset of the player base friendly. So that was a big change that I think kind of with this delay begins to make a little bit more sense, that they want to increase the investment level of you to get to those tiers. I think that's what part of the goal is here. But I think it boils down to Relic 9 access, right? I think a lot of this boils down to the access to Relic 9 materials. When you think about the, Oppo CX2, right? When they saw this, I guarantee you they were like, crap. There's nothing they can do. There's nothing they can do to change it. It's in the game. We figured it out. But I guarantee you they were not happy with that. And then you look at you go back to the Battle for Naboo, where you had, Padawan Obi-Wan, Master Qui-Gon, and they're like, yeah, this Duel of the Fates event. And they called it an assault battle. And if you think about it, and again, this is something Egnards and I have both spoken about at length, I don't think they were initially meant to be permanent events between Battle for the Duel of the Fates and Parade Patrol. I don't think those were meant to be permanent. I think those were meant to be, much like an era battle. And because they used the terminology of assault battles, we as the community took it as a permanent event. And even when they went to go replace those, they're like, oh, well, because we have these, we're going to take away some of those legacy assault battles. People freaked out, and rightfully so. Like, that's ridiculous. And they kind of went back on their word. They put the older assault battles in, and they kept these in permanently, which that was like, okay, thumbs up from you guys. You realized you heard us, moved on. But that is what kind of spawned the era battles as they are, is I think recognizing that they don't really want everybody to have this crazy access to Relic 9 materials, right? I think that's a big part of this game is and the big reason for me, I don't think they have plans for Relic 10 right now. I think a lot of this boils down to what they view Relic 9 as. I think so much of this, it's not about trying to screw over the free-to-play player base. They take the free-to-play player base, everything, if you're free-to-play, or light spender, they're going to listen to you. But they're not going to push through things in the game that they feel help you. Only if it helps them, right? At the end of the day, they've got to make money. They've got to do their thing. But I think it's because they don't have plans for Relic 10. I think this entire change is around access to those Relic 9 materials. I don't think it has to do with any other tiers to the assault battles than the Relic 9 tier. I saw this and I'm like, I wonder why this is. I wonder why this is changing. Like, what is, and I think it has to do with how they want access to Relic 9 materials. And it all boils down to there's no plans for Relic 10, which for many of you are going to say, Phil, that's ridiculous. Like, they have to have Relic 10 in the game. Listen, this is a whole other video that I've talked, at length about, but they've rushed Relic 8 and they've rushed Relic 9. But here's the data that I want to show you. I'm going to show some data here on why I don't think they have plans for Relic 9 in the game, or Relic 10. This is the Relic player data. And this was pulled, if I hide the fat face here, this was pulled on July 3rd, right? July 3rd, around 11:35 Eastern Standard Time. And you can see at the time, there were 680 total Captain Tanos in the game. I've got, tabs hidden here, but you can see from Relic 5 to here, this is the amount of Captain Tano that were in the game. No SME yet. Here's all the numbers. So this, I'm going to try to keep this updated every so often. But looking in the total column here, there are 44 million Relic units in the game. 44 million Relic units in the game. Relic 1 to Relic 9. If you just take even the Relic 8s and 9s and add them up as a percentage, right? Say this plus this and divide it by 44%. But divided by 44 million, it's not even 9%. Let that sink in. Not even 9% of the player base, bringing the fat face back here, not even 9% of the total relics in this game are Relic 8 and 9. But watch what happens when you do just 9. When you look at just Relic 9, 2.45% of the total relics in this game are Relic 9. That to me is the sign that they don't have plans for Relic 10. There's not enough players who can realistically participate with Relic 10. And I think that's why these era battles are getting delayed. And I think that's why these, the stuff is changing. They want to keep Relic 9 more so for whales. Whales, endgame, people who have put everything else into their account to get to that point. I don't think they like that someone investing, into the, going up here, for example, right? I don't think they like that people can invest in Queen Amidala, the Poncho Bros, the Dead Boys. I don't think they like that you can invest in these early because if these are the first 5 Relic 9s that you did, you're not ready for Leviathan, you're not ready for Ahsoka, Profundity, Hondo, you're not ready for those things, but you invest in these 5 Relic 9s. There's a realistic chance that you're going to make back those Relic 9s by the time that you would be even ready for any of those major things, depending on how soon you got them, right? Because there's no cap to doing that, right? There's no cap to, oh, you got to do this. And you think, like, if you're someone who maybe is a light spender and you buy the episode pass like myself, you're getting Gerda keypads, you're getting arrow magnifiers and impulse detectors and droid brains through this entire pass. So if you're buying this early before you have this major need for things, you would have those sitting around that then you'd be able to go and invest in the characters like this that are accessible to farm and everything. And now you have those Relic 9s, right? And I think that's why the change was switched to an era battle, is because they don't want that access. They don't want you to be able to get those Relic 9s that early. And again, I know this sound, you're like, Phil, this is turning into like relics and stuff, but I think that's really the reason for this. It's driven by money, but I think it's driven more so not by we want to make more. It's driven by protecting the people who did invest in these things. The guys like, shout out to Shitstorm in my Discord, a guy like him who's going to wail on these characters regardless, right? We want to protect his investment. We want to make it feel like his investment was worth it comparative to Fat Phil, who's kind of sneaking his way in. And Shitstorm probably is like, I don't friggin' care. I don't care what they do. Like, I'm going to spend regardless. But that's probably part of their mindset, is they want to make it worthwhile to spend and not just, oh, you can do this and cheaply get it done and it's not a big deal. So with that said, guys, I am kind of upset. I definitely feel like they really kind of almost like a backstab, I think they really did with this announcement. I don't think this is good for the game. And it begs the question, what else could happen? Like, finally leading to the last point I want to make here is, moving forward, like I said, can we trust them to stick to their timelines? They said that this Order 66 raid is going to last a year. We're already seeing guilds max crate. We're already seeing people get max scores with these underman teams that they're investigating and stuff. What's to say that they're going to spend more time trying to fix those undermans than just develop a new raid and make this one last 6 months or 9 months? Because, subject to change. Our plan was for it to be a year, but now it's only going to be around for, 7 months or 8 months. Like, that drastically changes player investment. But that's what they've opened up the door to. They've opened up the door to really changing the game with what they're, with what they said, just by simply having that, subject to change and plan here, plan there. And you say, well, Phil, if it was there, like, we can't get mad, can we? I think the side that a lot of us are making is, one, they've never done it, and two, it's the way it was communicated. That, like, you cannot tell me that this change wasn't made 2 weeks ago, right? Like, I'm sorry, I have a very tough time believing that 2 weeks ago there wasn't a thought that this could be delayed. I'm going to say it now. And maybe, just maybe, the reason that this is delayed is because they can't keep up. One of the big complaints in the game, and maybe I'll probably do a whole video on this topic because I think it has come up a lot, but one of the big things that a lot of players have pointed out is, are they struggling to keep up with the pace of the game? Between the new raid, between all the different era battle events, between, all the content and characters, are they struggling to keep up with the pace that they've set for themselves, and do they need to slow down? I think that's a very serious point that does need some consideration, something I want to tease for another video at another time. So with that said, guys, let me know your thoughts on this. Do you like it? Are you as pissed off as I am? Let me know everything down below. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.